I've been in Durham since 1970. I used to play tennis 5 o'clock when it wasn't raining in the middle of the summer. One day in 1977, I believe, Walter Cleary, who was running the faculty club at Duke, introduced me to this guy who was coming down to run a dance class, I thought. And that was my introduction to Charles Reinhardt. We became very, very close friends. I gave up tennis and I started doing aerobic dancing instead. I've been associated with the American Dance Festival fairly closely since 1977. And I've seen it, how it's changed, and how it's changed from the way it had been supported to the kinds of things that are now happening. And most importantly for Durham, when Charles retired from, we became a local triangle organization. And with some local triangle leadership and a different kind of a board. We were just, my daughter and I just came back in a car from the airport, and there was a triangle guide or a business guide. And so I asked her as she was looking through this, what was the ADF on it? Not only were we on it, but we were the 6th largest entertainment organization in the triangle. And that is not a small feat. There are some major theaters and things like that. It really does signal the change that's occurred. The next thing that really, I think, signals the change that's occurred is the first time we're not totally dependent on Duke for the space for dance, but have year-round building of our own and studios of our own. And we could actually then develop the types of programs that are being developed now. I could have a lot more to say, but I'll wait for your questions, because I can go on forever about Charles and the dance.
Maybe the next thing is for Arthur Rogers, an extraordinary board member who recently joined us. We had the opportunity to meet through Rotary, but went to have a lunch that was supposed to be just getting to know you lunch, and it was probably one of the best changing lunches I've had, that had to refocus ADF's energy in the most magical way in Durham. Is that he sat down at this lunch and I sat down at this lunch, and we're sort of about to say what we're both working on, and he was just so great. He said, life is so crazy right now because, you know, that building 3 doors down from your offices, I'm developing it into a 2-story building. And I immediately got so excited because I had no idea that that was his development. And it was right across from East Campus of Duke University, which is where we normally do all of our classes and most of the programs for the school in the summer, 3 doors down from our offices. And we've been looking for space, year-round space, literally since ADF came to Durham, looking for studio space, and it's never been possible because something didn't go quite right. And the biggest obstacle is finding the location, and then amazingly enough, finding a big enough amount of space that didn't have any columns, so the dancers don't have to worry about dancing through columns, and that there's a high enough roof. And I asked Arthur immediately, are there any columns? And he said no. And it's like, he had no idea why I was asking him this. And I said, how big is the space? And he said 5,000 square feet. And then he started to talk about the roof that was started like pretty high to begin with, but then was going to go to 17 feet. So I immediately said, what are you doing with this? We want it. And he looked at me like I was crazy. And I was crazy because I didn't have any support to really necessarily back up what I was talking about. But he said that the first floor was already occupied with retail and office space tenants, and that they had not yet decided what they were going to do with the second floor. So I said that we had had conversations with a major donor that said he would be interested in helping us find space for studios, but we had to be able to purchase it. And I looked at him and said, this beautiful space that you're just developing, is there any way that you would condo it so I could go to this donor and say that we can buy the top floor? And he looked at me like, I think,
I
like,
said
yeah, no, but then it's like, within what, 4 months, we had a signed contract because it was so amazing. Because I think if you've driven, has everybody driven by the space? Does everybody see the building?
Yes.
He developed it, so we designed the inside of the second floor, but he hired an incredible architect and he can tell you about that. But if you, I think, it's as if that space was made for us, the way it was designed. So it's incredible. So I'll let you talk a little bit more about it.
Yeah, it was kind of a miracle. I guess we owe it all to Rotary, because that is how Jodee. But it is amazing that, you know, a space that I didn't really know what we were going to do with. I kind of thought about doing an event space, and then I went to see Scott Seelig at Duke just for advice, and he said, "Don't do event space. Don't do it." And we were going to have this kind of wacky design with and he said, "Just make it straightforward. You need flexibility." And so Scott really saved it. And I have a great architect, Sasha Berghausen, and Sasha is one of these. He's a strong-willed guy, but he's also humble in his own way, because he said that we should listen to what Scott Seelig said and we should change the plan. And because we changed the plan, we were able to do this. It is amazing that it met all these criteria. Across the street from Duke, 3 doors down from the office, clear space. Seems like there was one more. I can't remember what it is. But it's been fun. Yeah, and you had to be able to buy it, which I didn't really want to sell it,
That's the developer.
but you know. But I'm the newcomer to the board. I'm by far the least senior person on the board as far as involvement with ADF. And Jodee said they needed me for that reason. I was one of the people that was somewhat interested in ADF. I'd taken one of my kids to a children's Palopolis show, I think, just because I thought I should. There was no reason whatsoever that I was not involved with ADF or that I didn't go to ADF performances. No reason. I was totally open to it. I just didn't do it. And I think there are a lot of people in Durham like that. I mean, especially now, there's so many things going on in Durham, and we get a little bit overwhelmed. But Jodee wanted somebody with kind of my perspective, like what would open your eyes to this art form. And I was really attracted to the fact that, well, first of all, I'm a big Durham guy. I'm from a different town in North Carolina, but I've really adopted Durham as my hometown. And this is such a Durham thing. I want to support it. Secondly, it's the home of modern dance in the world. I mean, it's amazing right here. It's the epicenter for those weeks in the summer. And that's amazing that we can go to a world-class festival right down the street. I can ride my bike. It's pretty amazing to have that opportunity. So I have embraced it, and the board has embraced me, and I want to help in any way I can. So it's been fun. Look forward to working on it. Gaspard?
Thank you. Well, I just want to say, well, I guess he designed the space, she helped make it happen, and I get to dance in it. Well, I was born and raised in Haiti and moved to this beautiful United States when I was about 13, to New York and then New Jersey. High school, college, majored in dance, in business, and halfway through sophomore year, I decided that business was not quite for me, so I switched into dance. And I didn't even tell my parents about it until I graduated. So, but I was lucky enough to, after graduation, to have secured a scholarship to study jazz in Chicago, dance jazz. And then I spent about a year in Chicago, came back to New York, because it was too far away from home, because New Jersey was home, and I had never been more than half hour away from home. Even when I lived on campus, I could still have on a bus half hour later I'm home. So Chicago was quite the other side of the world to me. Came back home to New Jersey, and just so happened there was an audition for Palabolas, and I had never really seen Palabolas before. And so I just had, let me just go to the audition and make a fool out of myself. And to my surprise, they loved it. And I got offered a job, and I spent 10 years with Palabolas, traveling across the globe. Actually, 7 years full-time and 3 years part-time doing the shadow work that you've seen. And I met Jodee actually here in North Carolina while performing with Palabolas. And a couple years later, we got married and have 2 wonderful kids, right? 2, right?
Just 2.
So it is a pleasure for me to be back here in North Carolina, Durham in particular, to be able to share my love of dance with the kids in the community. And it's just really feels so gratifying whenever I meet a kid, whether it's in the Parks and Rec Center, one of my favorite schools, which is Central Park School for Children. I mean, I've been teaching there for the past, I believe, going on 4 to 5 years, volunteering my services there. I did a few other schools, Hope Valley, Merritt Moore, Hillendale, Edison Johnson, just to name a few of the schools that I've been working with, and it's just so incredible. And now actually there's a special performances with the ADF outreach program that actually Jodee is helping to make happen. Now that I have my own dance company as well, I'm going to have a performance in the fall. So I'm going to be selecting 20 kids, some of whom that I've been working with in the community, to choreograph a dance, and where they're going to be actually be part of this presentation that I'm having in September. So hopefully we're going to start rehearsing in August, and maybe you could all come and see the show and see these kids at work.
Questions. Let's just ask questions. Rosemary?
Where is your show going to be? What venue?
Reynolds.
The Reynolds, okay, good. And then I wanted to ask about the 8 to the 12-year-old camp. Is it going to be only dance? Is it going to be overnight? Where are they sleeping? Where are you drawing people from? What are the demographics?
So the first launch of this is going to be only a 1-week program. It's going to be a day camp. They go from 9 to 4. They get to take 5 different classes, and they get to take with really extraordinary teachers, including Gaspard with his background, Rosie Herrera, who some of you may have seen, is going to do like performance and text with them and voice. And they'll do composition with Kate Folkmore, who's been teaching at our studios and is a beautiful dancer. A wonderful guy, Ronald West, who does hip hop. So they'll get to see a huge smorgasbord of dance techniques. And then that Saturday, they'll get to all go with their parents to see the Palabolas Children's Matinee. And then Palabolas is going to take them on a backstage tour of DPAC so they can see what it's like backstage. And they're going to get a little company picture with the Palabolas dancers. So that's the first group and first experience. We were hoping, we've never done this before, that we could maybe get 15 to fill up like one group. And we got an incredible person in the community to make a contribution of $5,000 so that we could actually hold auditions for the camp and actually make it very affordable so people in the community who might not otherwise be able to come to this camp could come. So we had 17 people come to the audition. Many of them had never set foot in the ADF studios before, an incredible diversity of students, and we are able not only to offer 15 scholarship of some form, but we now have filled up to 30 people. So it's filled to capacity, so there's 2 groups our first year for 1 week. We'll hopefully expand on it in the future.
Thanks. Very good. All right, more questions? This is your chance.
Yeah, Jen, I just wonder how you pick the companies each year. How, I know there's certain ones that you consistently pick, and out of all the dancers in the world, how you come up with your roster of companies, because are you trying, what's your philosophy? Are you trying to kind of push the edge, is the sense that I got? Or are you trying to, with some, satisfy the masses, with some, push the edge, with some, do you understand what
I
I'm
think
saying? I
It's
don't
all of
really-
the above. All of the above. The point for me is, based on the incredible tradition of having worked with Charles and Stephanie Reinhardt, is that my obligation, I think, to the audience, you might not like it, or hopefully you do, but is to show the breadth and the depth of what's happening in the field, whether it be locally, nationally, or internationally, from emerging to very established pieces that will fit into a very small space, pieces that will fit on the stage at DPAC. So it's a huge smorgasbord of variations of things that I'm trying to put together. And then clearly Palabolas, which is a well-renowned company that people love and want to see year after year. A company like that also allows me to bring a much more experimental company that will draw maybe a couple hundred people that will come to those performances. So it's not only an aesthetic statement of what's happening in the dance field, but also it is still a business and trying to balance the economics of all of it together.
Is there any way from looking at the program, I get overwhelmed, can I just give feedback since there's nothing? Okay, so I get overwhelmed, and I never know, and last year, some things I really didn't like, and some things I did. Is there a way, besides having to look at 20 different companies on YouTube and go through that whole ordeal, to indicate for the masses, avant-garde, you know, for mature audiences, on your program so that we have an easier, like, knowing, do you know what I'm saying?
I do, because you know a lot of journalists try to do that for us during the season, and I have to say that I'm happy that they want to do it, but I don't want to do that. The rationale is that I know it can be cumbersome and overwhelming, so I apologize
And so
for
I
that.
ended up going to nothing, to tell you the truth. I mean, what's happened is I bought no tickets.
Then I would rather have a conversation with you. I would take the time to do
But
that.
everybody doesn't get to know you like I'm a friend, you know, I know
But
you.
people can call. They can call our office. I mean, maybe we need to spread that. We can't have 40 minutes or an hour for each and every person that calls. But I'd be happy if you want to talk about it. The problem is that every single performance during the season, I will walk out and almost always the person on my right will say, "That's the most magical thing I've ever seen." And someone on my left will sort of be like, "Now I'm so curious, why did you bring that?"
Yeah.
But then the next performance, it'll be the same thing with somebody else. And for me to try to tell you what you are going to enjoy, I think is really dangerous. And I really don't want to do that, but I'm personally willing to talk to people to say, this is what this is a little bit more. I think it's hard because when you think you might not like something, it could be the thing that you love the most.
Is there any way, does it say what music is gonna be? See, that for me, I'm real sensitive to the music and whether it's loud or whether it's really weird, kind of weird music.
So we're old, right?
No, I've always been this way. No, I really have always been this way. I mean, I've always been that way. And is there any way to indicate what the music is gonna be for the performances so you would know?
One of the things is that we have done in the past, and I could make sure we do it this year. It might not be as early as you would like it to happen, but we do know I know the program's way in advance, but in terms of getting all the credits and everything from the companies, we know that at least usually 2 weeks in advance. So it's potentially possible that we could put the program on the internet so that you could scour through to see who the
Because that does
musicians
make
are.
a difference. Like when I go to the symphony, I choose when I'm going, like in London, there's Proms, which is a big kind of seasonal festival that's similar to like our thing, but it's all symphony music. And I pick, if I'm gonna be there, by what they're performing, not by which orchestra it is, because that makes a difference to me, the music, who they're gonna be playing. And that's what I wondered with the dance thing, if there was a way to know.
We could share the program information with you.
Okay, Alan, and then we'll get Rose.
So, the things have changed over the years. In 1977, the dance world was looking for a place where it could go. Where could these young companies develop and continue in this tradition that had started in Connecticut, college and other places. At that time, I don't know how many of you were here at that time, there was a kind of an eclectic group of dancing companies that were brought down, some of whom caused an uproar in this community. One of them was called Palabolus. And there was an incredible firestorm that took place about whether or not the dance festival could even exist here, and what was artistic and what was lewd. These kinds of things, everybody's taste is quite different. One of the things that I think this allows somebody who has become interested in the art form, I can't dance a loop, but I mean, is to see something and you either sort of like it, you can like it a lot, or maybe you don't like it, but you can figure out why. The dance companies, the music that they use is usually, you know, very different. It isn't like an artist's work that you know and love, and that's what you'd like to hear again. A lot of this is the first time that you're even going to hear this music, because it's composed in many cases for the dance. And it's more of a, you're not going to ever get, you know, I've been around a lot of things a long time. You're not going to get everybody to like everything. But the point is, if there is information that can be provided to let people make some choices, then that's simple to do. All you have to do is ask. And if we can do it, if Jodee can do it, it'll happen. But you know, when Rosie Herrera was on the program, I didn't know who she was. I didn't know anything about her. I knew she was Cuban. I knew she came from Miami, and it was going to be. I suspected that it was going to be a lot of Cuban dance music, but it was high drama. It wasn't just dance. It was acting and drama. So it's a surprise, and for me, the nicest thing about it is not so much seeing my old friends come back every year in a couple of the companies, but meeting some of the newer companies that are here during the week, not at the DUPAC, but in Reynolds, and seeing in a smaller group, new companies. I mean, I can tell you things I really hated over the years, and some of those people went on to greatness in the field. I remember having one company where we spent 1 hour watching 6 dancers spin to repetitive music, and I just thought, you know, for years I would rag Charles about this, but it's one of the most famous dancing choreographers who went on to do a whole bunch of other great things. But I still lost that hour from my life.
Yes, I was going to say that I found the video on the website where the promotional push came out very helpful. You didn't have to go to YouTube and find everything, because you had a really nice, concise, maybe 20 minutes.
It's not even that
Not even
short.
that, but you can also hear the music, so you have an idea. Maybe it's not what they're going to do that night, but you have an idea of the genre of music. And I want to say, I love the Nasher venue.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
And as Alan said, the music is constantly changing, and me, particularly as a choreographer, I'm actually working on a piece of choreography right now. I don't even know what the music is going to be like. I'm working with a local composer, and we've yet to get together. So I have ideas of the movement, and I have no idea what the sound is going to be like until we get together, and then I can give him the idea of a feeling that I'm looking for. Then he's going to go home, compose that, and let me hear it.
Question.
I have 2 questions. Speaking of music, will you do the musicians concert this year?
Yeah, it's a tradition. We do the incredible musicians who come nationwide to play for the classes for the students. they do a concert, and it's very eclectic, so yes, it's happening. And it's happening this year, we're so excited, in Baldwin. So we're gonna be in Baldwin, which will be really wonderful, so we'll get to have, we lost it at coveted space, that used to be one of the most amazing spaces to have classes, but I will say Duke University renovated it to an amazing music hall, but they did this ventilation system where the air comes up through the stage, so we can't dance on it anymore, but now we can have an incredible musicians concert.
The acoustics are amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be great.
So my second question is the Shall We Dance campaign, or I understand this is the last year, it was only a 2-year, I didn't quite.
It's a 3-year campaign, and Arthur was really the impetus for us to get into this campaign because of the building. So we unfortunately are working.
I would have rented it.
We're working backwards. Most people plan ahead to do a major campaign, but because this opportunity fell into our laps and we couldn't say no, we literally, I don't think we would ever find the space on that location ever again. We got the board to stand behind and say, we'll move forward, but we'll have, so we're doing a campaign backwards. We are raising money for a finished space that we've opened up to the community. But we decided to expand the campaign beyond capital to make it a way to really grow our annual fund and also to add to the endowment so that those that were interested in ADF's present and future could contribute in any of those ways. We are about $2.4 million to our $3 million goal, and we have until the end of the year.
So this is the last year then?
We are hoping to finish by the end of the calendar year. So the end of this, December 31st. Checks can be taken tonight, it's no problem.
So I give you 2 minutes on that space. My original introduction to that space was when I was running the memory disorders clinics at Duke for Alzheimer's diagnosis as part of the Bryan Alzheimer's Center. And what we found was bringing people into Duke was very, very difficult because especially if they had problems, they got lost and all sorts of stuff. So we became the very, very first private diagnostic clinic and also the general clinic, free clinic, to go outside of Duke University's hallowed halls in that building.
Yeah.
And we were there for, I bet, 10, 15 years until new buildings got built and we had additional space and needs that, far out. There wasn't enough space. But there was always a lot of cerebral activity in that building. And now when I walk in, my desk, where my desk was on the footprint of that building, is a wonderful coffee shop. So it's actually a very interesting story. But the thing that I wanted to say about what Gaspard said, this has become a focal point for the ability of local people who are composers, who are dancers, who are children, who are in any way, shape, or form creative, to get involved in something with the very, very best people in the world that come down here to teach it and are here for the American Dance Festival. And if any of you haven't gone through when they're here on one of the tours, I think it's one of the most amazing performances you're likely to see. And you walk in over a couple-hour period into 4 or 5 classes and just see it. It's amazing.
I wanted Jodee to say something about the response of the community to the space, that it's really been heavily weighted toward the young kids, and it's not exactly what we expected, but it's wonderful. I mean,
We really wanted to open the space to have classes for all ages, including pre-professional dancers that are based here, because there's an amazing number of people who have relocated or grown up here and are trying to have their own companies. So we decided we wanted to cater to everybody. But in the 2 years that we've been open, the classes have doubled in terms of the number of people that are coming. But our young children who are coming, it's extraordinary the number that are coming. But it's amazing, we're introducing so many families to the festival that have lived here also for many years, and people that have been transplants but had never heard of ADF. So
Through their kids.
Through their kids. So they're learning about the ADF through this amazing new facility. And it's the first time in ADF's 81-year history that we've ever owned any space. The festival's always been a floating festival. It was in Bennington, Vermont, then Connecticut College, and then Duke University. This is the 37th year here, but this new building, people drive by and they see a sign that says ADF. They're really excited that we're not going to pick up after the season and go anywhere, but there's so much happening year-round, and Gaspard's going into these schools and teaching and giving free classes to these students, and what's amazing is he has been able to identify or bring students from the outreach program into the studios, and we've been offering scholarship to get them to be able to come on a regular basis, and they've turned into being able to continue to pay on their own because they become so invested. So it's sort of an incredible cycle of people coming through the studios and the space. We're really excited about that.
Questions?
I just have a comment, and you might have covered this before I came in, but I really enjoy for myself, the children's matinees, because, you know, I might be busy in the evening or something, and I can come and just feel good just to watch all the kids afterwards. You know, you have the little activities or even more music or whatever afterwards, and they're just dancing around and swirling little, you know, ribbons or whatever, and I just enjoy it for myself. I just had a ball with those.
Kids of all ages.
So what's that?
Kids of all ages.
Of all ages, yeah, maybe. Yeah, even I don't have a young person that I bring anymore, but I have in the past. But yeah, they're just great.
Thank you.
How many of you have had an opportunity to actually, you've seen the building but go in the space? Because if you if you haven't had an opportunity to go inside the space, you really, really should take the tour. It's something very magical about it. Even if you can't dance, it just makes you want to dance. You know, this big, wide open space, and you're looking across at the beautiful East Campus. I mean, it just makes you feel so good. So I'm glad that with all this synergy with the buildings and what it had been, and it's actually, I took my dad to the memory disorder clinic, so I remember exactly that building and what you've done with it, Arthur, and meeting ADF's needs. I mean, that was just providence. It was just perfect,
Yes.
just perfect.
Yeah, we hollowed it out. We saved the brick walls
Yeah.
in the concrete floor, but
everything else.
kind of built the new studio inside, built a steel concrete building inside.
And it really does anchor that section of Broad Street. I mean, it's a really nice anchor. But I have a question for Gaspard, because, you know, you hear about people who are trained to be dancers and ballerinas, you know, start when they're like 4 years old. And, you know, you said you went through college and then just decided to dance?
Yeah, but he's from the Caribbean, and they dance when they're 3 years old. Those kids can move better than
I have no doubt.
No, seriously, I lived in the Caribbean. Don't you think that was a big part of your movement?
That's partially true. Unfortunately, I came from a family where I was not allowed to dance. You know, my parents were religious people where going out to party was forbidden. I would have to constantly sneak out with my brothers and friends to go out and do that. So, but it was forbidden. You know, I came from Haiti. I don't even know how to swim. That's how. But I did play sports. Soccer. I played soccer, which was the primary sports in Haiti. I did martial arts. Which is actually something in common with the original Palawas folks. I mean, they weren't really trained dancers. They were, you know, mountain climbers, skiers, and they weren't really dancers. And I have that in common with them. So when I decided to dance, fortunately I was physically, I guess, gifted, I guess. where dance, I should kind of like fit into the dance naturally. But I didn't really take my first dance class until sophomore in college. And also, it's somewhat different. Yes, I did dance compa and salsa and merengue and all, but it's very different than ballet, which is, everything is sort of kind of like, I mean, it's not free for all. It's so fun because I went to a party once with some classmates back in college who were dance majors, and I would watch them dance. We'll go to a party where it's not ballet, it's not jazz, it's not trained dance, classical trained. She could not dance. And get her on stage, incredible dancer. So it's completely different. A street dancer versus a trained classical dancer.
That's very interesting. Oh, quick, go ahead.
I just have a comment, and it's something that I'd forgotten about until you mentioned what you were doing in the schools. When I was in high school, the Dance Theater of Harlem volunteered some dancers to come in and do exactly what you're doing. They taught a class, we did a performance, and I'm telling you, it was my heyday. I messed up a million times on stage, but the practice, the camaraderie, what I learned about just moving through it and what I learned that my body could do was amazing. And to this, I'm here today. I mean, I love ADF. I didn't know about it when I moved here. And gratefully someone introduced me and took me through and told me about, well, this performance is kind of this, and we saw this last year, and this is this, and they, you know, walked me through all that. And I've been in love with it ever since. And I just commend you and ADF for what you're doing in the community, and you change lives, you know, just by doing that. They may never go to be great dancers like I didn't, but just the appreciation and the introduction and the life lesson that you learn through the performance, through the classes, and the discipline and all that is for me, it was, I mean, I can't put a dollar amount on it. It was amazing. So, hats off.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you all speak a little bit about what does it take? Now you're getting ready to go right into the heart of the festival coming up. When you come out of that festival, I mean, what is the process for next year? How, or are you already planning next year?
We are starting to plan already next year a little bit. I think what's so funny is that every time the season ends, somebody always says to me, "So what are you going to do now?"
Like you're
there is vacation would be good. So everybody gets a week of R&R, and then literally there's no downtime anymore. There used to feel like there was a little bit of downtime, but there's really not, because then the traveling begins to start looking to see all the work.
And talk about your traveling.
You know, I'm gone for Gaspard and my children. I'm gone a lot. I have to travel to New York frequently. I travel overseas. It's a wonderful privilege, but you have to see as much work as possible. So I'm gone at least probably 3 times a month on trips to see work. And then we have to, you know, the minute the season ends, we're fundraising for the next season, working on promotional materials. And now the studios, which is this incredible blessing to us, it's like adding on an entire new business. So, and we haven't grown our staff really. So we have an incredible dedicated group of people that's a core of like 12 year-round, and then we blossom, and the only way the festival takes place is because of interns and summer staff that come on to help us. So it really does take an entire year. But again, it's like there's just so many projects. We're sending teachers and musicians to China in August to do a residency and teach students there. We do a January intensive in New York City for students. We're doing the outreach program. We're working on trying to raise money to do a documentary on the festival. So there's just, it's constantly the navigating of the work and the fundraising, but very, very exciting and rewarding.
I'm surprised you still have to travel and they don't just send you videotapes of what they're doing. What's the difference? Why?
There is no experience like a live performance. You really can't judge. I mean, I've seen a lot of things, so I can tell if I think something is worth pursuing further.
So that gets you there.
It could get me there, but I'm usually ahead of that normally. Just trying to see, we have wonderful colleagues and we talk, but it's like keeping up with all the younger people making work, seeing the newer and established companies also but the repertoire is changing. I think like the season this year, a couple of things that I'm excited about that are very accessible but high quality. One example is Valley Hispanico. Valley Hispanico has never come to ADF. It's a very established company. It's been around for, I think, 30 years. An incredible education program too. But they got new artistic director about 5 years ago. And this incredible man is changing the repertoire of what the company is doing. So it's not only amazing dancers, but now the repertoire is some of the best quality that's happening. So it's a virtuosic repertory program with 3 different works by 3 different choreographers, including that we commissioned a work by Rosie Herrera to do a piece on the company. So what's great about that is we're showcasing an established company, 3 different pieces by 3 different choreographers. So there's variants on a program if you don't necessarily want to see a program with one choreographer's vision. And then we get to support someone that we think is incredibly talented and just rising up, Rosie Herrera, because we're having her make a new piece for the company, and it will give her a platform way beyond her own company that's based in Miami, because this company is touring the globe. So it will help build her own reputation, gets exposure at ADF. And I have to say, and I think Gaspard will say, it's still, there's many places that dance companies want to go, but ADF is still one of the places that, until a company has been here, it's like that, they can't quite check off. I mean, it's like they haven't reached the pinnacle. There was Stephen Petronio came a couple of years ago, and it was phenomenal. His company has been around for many years, and he just said to me, it's like finally, it's like it closes, because it's like in the history books, it's like what Alan said, it's ADF is synonymous, Arthur said it, with the history of modern dance, and it's like the pinnacle of people's careers to be able to at least say that they have been part of this community and perform here. And it is amazing it's happening in Durham, North Carolina. Mm-hmm. So not only is it happening here, but the record, so much of the history is recorded in the papers of Durham and Raleigh for future generations.
Including that first year.
And that's a good point, Alan. Can you share with us, maybe whether it's good or bad, what some of the dancers have said, when companies have said when they have come to Durham, not just to ADF, but to Durham? What do they think of Durham? Good or bad? I am.
Well, I'll answer the question, but I can't speak for any of the companies. I can speak for some of the dancers who I've talked to over the years. One of the big problems in 1977 and 1980, whatever, was there was no place open in Durham, North Carolina for these folks to eat after the performance. And still, there's a lot of great restaurants here, but try to find one open on a Monday night.
Thank you. Yes, that is very true.
So one of the things that actually happened, which was our first introduction, is that local families opened up their homes for the professional dance companies to come and be able to eat afterwards, and then you would invite a few of your own friends. It blossomed like that. And some of the older companies that have come time after time, like Polopolis, like Taylor, their dancers have been awed by the change in Durham. And just as we were awed at the change in what they do, they've seen Durham change. And if you've been here any length of time, this place is a heck of a lot different than it was even 20 years ago. I mean, in terms of the whole community, everything from coffee center of the company of the world now to the ADF, and they enjoy it. It is something different for them. There are other festivals now, but they're much more, the word that I've heard used is much more commercial. So they come up to some place where there's been a series of concerts, or a series of works done year after year, but it isn't a dance festival where part of the audience almost every night is a serious cut of your own individual field. And that makes a difference. So when you're in the audience, many times you're sitting next to somebody who is and it's different. It's different than seeing the exact same companies when we go to New York and I see Taylor. It's a bit different for me to know that who these people are and what they're doing and watching it happen and feeling the emotions over the years. A lot of people come back. They come back during the summer just to visit and to be part, not necessarily on a daily basis teaching in the school or anything like that, but just to be around. And there were some very incredible people who very early on were major supporters of the dance before, certainly before I even knew it existed. And they used to come. There was one man who used to come, and he unfortunately died a few years ago, but he would come and live in a room where the students were every summer as he was going through his 70s and as he was going through his 80s. He had free time, he had a good business, and this is what he loved. And he was a remarkable person. Families that have supported the dance in major ways, like the Scripps family, watching their notice the difference in this community. But the biggest thing I think they're starting to notice now when they come, and it'll be even more so this summer, I expect, is the piece of land that is an anchor now for this community. There's a picture. There was never a picture of the ADF in Durham, North Carolina. It was, a story, but nobody could look across the street from Duke University and see the face. And I think that's going to have a tremendous effect on people.
I have a question of Gaspard. Now that we have video, going back to my days when I was learning to dance, my teacher taught me how to do it, showed me the choreography. But how does choreography go from generation to generation? Is it on paper, like an orchestra score? Is it on video? It can't be kept in somebody's head because people come and go.
Well, back in the day, they had this process called lab notation, which is kind of like writing music. It's the same, almost, if you didn't know any better, you would think it's musical notes.
And it's called what?
Laba notation, Laban notation. But now we have the camera, which is video. It's a lot easier to learn. Trying to decipher a movement from that little structure could be very, very difficult. And I happened to, as a dance major, so I had to take a Laban class, and it was really painful. But it was for me to decipher. But it was fun. It was fun, and I'm glad that I've experienced it. But I think having the video with it, that kind of technology we have today, make it a lot more easier and for us to learn from the video rather than the writing that used to be in the past.
Thank you.
The video has changed over the last 20 years. From a shot of a stage with people there to doing the same things as you can do if you had the support to do it at a National Football League game.
Mm-hmm.
You can highlight, you can see it from different angles. And that's perfectly usable in the situation in studios for some of these companies. So it's used as a tool because it's accessible. Pick out your cell phone, you have a video.
Jodee, I remember when the size of the stage was one of the limiting factors for the festival. And that's why with the advent, the Carolina Theater just did not have the breadth and depth for the festival. Now that we have DPAC, are all of those kind of physical limitations over for ADF, or are the companies and where they're going pushing us to do more and more? Are they going to be flying through the air or whatever? I mean, does Durham have the facility now to meet the needs of ADF in terms of the festival? They've got a home now. So are we keeping up with what the festival needs in terms of physical specs?
So amazingly enough, I think we're so lucky to have Reynolds and DPEC. We love both spaces a lot for different reasons. Ironically, what Durham doesn't really have is a smaller theater. And that's why I've been trying to program pieces in different locations that I think are really good pieces, but they don't fit into a traditional proscenium space. And if they do fit into a space that is a traditional stage, you would want something that's much more intimate, like 200, 150, sometimes even 100 seats. So I've been trying to find alternative spaces like the Nasher. We're going to the PSI Theater, at Durham Arts Council this year. We did something at Motorco last year. So trying to make sure that we don't ignore those pieces that are just as brilliant, but that don't necessarily fit in those two spaces. And one thing that I would love to just say is DPEC is incredible because it now has the stage capacity to do fuller productions than we've ever done. But it also is a very huge theater. And it was really billed as a Broadway Roadhouse. And so it's incredible for that. But one of the things that I wish that I could convey to more people in a way that sounds incredibly positive, because I do mean it in the most positive way, is that we're talking about a 2,800 seat theater that we close off the top balcony, so we don't use that at all. And then we try to sell about 1,800 seats. But if you can imagine, just think about it for a second, 1,800 seat theater, even in New York City for modern dance, is huge. So when there is a DPAC performance and it's very full, but yet you see a lot of empty spaces, the energy, what I feel like, I don't want people's energy to go down because they think there's not people here. It's a huge amount of people in that space that is just too enormous for modern dance in Durham and a lot of times in New York City. Most of the spaces that I see dancing in New York City when I'm seeing stuff, I see tons of stuff in 500 seat theaters. I see things in maybe 1,000 seat. So it's really, we're so privileged to have this beautiful space and it's incredible. I mean, the performers love it and it's great to see. But for the audience, it gets me concerned that they might not feel, why should we come? Because nobody else is coming because of empty seats. But I think there is an enormous love for it and there is people there, but it doesn't appear to be as full as you would want it to be.
Questions? More questions?
Theater's the ballpark.
We're hoping to do something. We're hoping to do something in the ballpark next year. So stay tuned. Stay tuned. If anybody has a great connection, let me know. We'll go talk to George.
Oh, really? In
Maybe.
Oh.
They'll do it.
We'll do it. So I think we have some ideas for that. So, but the Nasher performance is a duet by an Israeli couple. If you came last year to see Markheim, it's a very different kind of work, but it's also pretty pedestrian because again, that is a great space, but the difficulty with that is there's not.
Are you going to do it in the auditorium?
No, it's in the lobby, the atrium.
The acoustics are so bad.
They're not amazing, but it is, again, it's like we're looking for spaces that can work for the pieces that we're looking for, but there is no dance floor there. So it is a very pedestrian piece that will be performed there.
So in the lobby area?
In the lobby area.
Slippery.
It worked really well last year.
Yeah.
It's
I mean, I can't.
I've been there with party, I mean, just the acoustics.
It was great.
It was
It's
great.
They
And
did something
And
good.
in a
in
sound
retrospect,
system.
it got even better.
Yeah.
When I first saw it, I thought, oh my, how long is this going to last? And I got caught up into it, and the drama in it was wonderful. And then the more I thought about it afterwards and days afterwards, the richer it became, the performance.
I
So
think the backdrop helped the acoustics too.
That's
Yeah.
one for your list.
I was going to say, yeah, add that, 'cause that definitely sounds like a keeper of that
I
one.
think
So you
there's a-
saw Markheim there?
I did, and all his glory, and including the young guy who was the tattooed body in process. You could see that he had worked. I'm sorry, we're on television. He zones in his body with tattoos, and eventually, if he got enough dancing gigs, that he was going to be a total package.
I think you should come see everything, but if there's a couple of things that I would like to highlight, I think it would be terrific for you guys to consider coming to the opening performance of the Vertigo Dance. It's just really high octane dancing and interesting music but it's a piece that was made over several decades of this woman's career, looking backwards and trying to piece everything she's learned. And it's just, it's full out dancing and beautiful, stunning costuming and a set. Ballet Hispanic, who's never been here before, I think is an interesting repertory program. So again, you leave having seen 3 completely different pieces. Cedar Lake Contemporary Ballet has a program that is not to be missed. 3 amazing performances. One is a world premiere by Emmanuel Gott. Some interesting younger companies, and then a program that I have no idea what to expect, but I'm really excited that we're commissioning 4 solos by very acclaimed choreographers, Shin Wei, Doug Verone, Stephen Petronio, and Ronald K. Brown. They all have acclaimed companies. They've all graced the ADF stages before. They're all very mature dancers. Shin Wei was already planning to make a new solo, and we weren't able to bring the company back, so I was trying to figure out how we might be able to bring the solo on our shared program. So I reached out to other choreographers who, it just seems unfortunate if we would never see them on the ADF stages again. So I said, would you consider making a piece for this point in your career on your body at this time? So it could be full out dancing, or it might be very minimal dancing, but they're all gonna be on this program together. And what's great is that it's real camaraderie, because they each kept asking, well, who else is gonna be on the program? And it sort of, I think, took the nerve of hearing the other people that were participating, and then they're like, well, if he's gonna be on it, then I definitely wanna be on it. It's like, they're all working really hard to be in shape to do this performance, so it's at the end of the season. Shin Wei is the only one that performed the piece before this shared program happens, but I saw it and it's exquisite. So there's 3 more that they're working on, and they'll be premiered on this program. So, and it's an ADF exclusive program, so it's like they're coming here to do this for our community, and it may or may not have a life afterwards, but they're one time together.
We gotta talk about the local companies.
Okay, so that would be terrible if I didn't say this. So the North Carolina Dance Festival reached out to me last year to collaborate on showcasing local companies, and we're really excited. We're working with them again this year, and what we did is we reached out to 3 choreographers nationwide, very different aesthetics, who went through blindfolded videotapes of companies throughout the state of North Carolina. They chose their top choices. Turns out that together, all 3 of them chose 4 dance companies, all from Durham, North Carolina. So pretty impressive that Durham will be represented very well on a shared program, and it turns out that I had nothing to do with it. People will think I did, but I didn't. That Gaspard's company was selected by the choreographers as well. So Gaspard will be sharing the spotlight at 3 other companies and all their debuts on the ADF stages.
Wonderful. And on that note, you've just given me my program lineup, so now I can go make my choices. So thank you. I want to just thank you so much. This has been wonderful. Please join me in thanking you.